And rain date is the next night. So thank you for your brought it, and next week is the last chance. Thank you.
Any other announcements from the floor? As Ralph said, we're still collecting dishwashing liquid, so I think we're doing that through the 9th of November, is it, Eileen?
Yes, and I've been away, so I can't give you a count.
I think we've done pretty well, so still a little bit more to go. But,
Didn't we do 47 bottles just part? How many was it last year? 30 or 40?
I don't know, just filled a couple of Corona boxes, right, Sue? So,
I put them in Corona cases, they fit very nice.
yeah. So I think we're probably more than 2/3 of the way there, but still a little ways to go. So if you could remember that, that would be terrific as well. Saturday is the Purple Pinky. Looks like the weather might be a little wet, but that's okay. So I'll be walking in that. I think Cindy's walking in it with Chris. Thank you for everyone who has sponsored me. I got a few more sponsorships this morning. So if you are so inclined, I'm certainly still accepting donations toward that. So, and if you want to participate, it's still not too late. You can sign up on the day of the race. It's 8. You would register at 8 o'clock over at L-Tri-C. So Saturday the 14th, 8 o'clock. All proceeds go to Folio. And then we still have time to register for the foundation meeting, which will be held at Montgomery County Community College on the 4th of November at 8:30. So I think 4 or 5 of us are going, so more than welcome to join us.
Oh dear.
Any other announcements from anyone? Okay, with that, Lisa, I will turn it over to you for the raffle.
Okay, put your seatbelts on. It is the moment that we are always all waiting for. This table has already validated that the numbers were mixed and remixed, although some people said if their number doesn't get picked, I'm not validating it. I won't say who said that, because it may be really fine, but that's not. And we have a speaker today. Where are they? Whoops. I will let you pick the first number. And welcome.
Thank you.
Drum roll. 1, 4, 0. Woo! We have a winner.
So things are going well?
I just got back from a week or so in Western Pennsylvania and
147.
going to Phoenix.
147.
Just kind of trying to keep up with everything.
I hear you.
How about you?
Same thing.
147.
Pick a number.
We'll go one to the left. 160. Oh.
Missed it by 1.
6-0. Please put it in the shelter box basket.
Okay, thank you. It's up there, thank you very much.
1, 2, 9er. 1, 2, 9er.
There. Thank you, and say
Ah, the
that.
rich get richer.
Thank you, Lisa, and congratulations to the winners, and check for those who donated back. So,
And did anyone not get the shelter basket? Did any table not get it yet?
send it a second time.
Well trained.
Okay, Gail, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay.
Thank you.
How are we doing?
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to start out today to let you know that Jim Ritter is leaving early. And I don't know, Eric, can you pull that tie out of your vest? I think
I'm not Don Blows.
No, I think that Don Blows, I want you to pay attention to this.
He might have one actually. This edition. This is another one of the Garcia editions. So
Look at that.
on a bright sunny day like today, it kind of goes.
Yeah.
How much?
No wonder you had it tucked in. $2.
All right.
Roger owes me $2 because he did not have his badge on when he was meandering around the room here, and he didn't realize who he was. I had to tell him, and he said his badge was back here at the table. So, Roger, that's $2 for not having your badge on when I was in observance of you. Oh, thanks. I might give you change. Let's see. I have some other fines yet, though. I'll get Roger's change. Mike Lahanis is leaving early. Chris DiPaolo has no pin. Mark Earl is leaving early. And that's it as far as I know for fines, other than it was suggested to me by a Rotarian Sue that I be fined for an article that we paid for that was on the front cover of a local rag sheet called Next Zest. But that was for our 60th anniversary in business, so I have $60 for that.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm hoping that will keep her mouth shut for the rest of my life. No, I know.
That might be something with it.
But how about some happy dollars? We have some happy people here. Alicia.
Yeah, I have something.
Good.
I just came back from Spain, and I happened to be in Barcelona on Sunday when they had the voting for the independence. I want you to know that we were not near any disturbances.
Good.
Whatever happened, it must have been someplace else. On Sunday we were at the park with Ray, and nothing happened there. So I'm glad, and we came back. The strike did not affect us. We were able to get in the plane and everything. So that is a happy dog.
Very good, thank you. Okay, Cindy.
I wasn't gonna talk, but I have to, got to practice. I have $1. I got this email from Tim Temple, who was one of the teachers from Zambia that came, and said, hello, how are you? We outfitted 4 of the 18 classrooms with projector screens and computers. We have started using the projectors, and it is pretty awesome because our students are eager to come to class early and want to stay late, so to re-watch the lessons. The thrill of seeing the notes and diagrams on the projected screen is awesome. Everyone wants to use the projectors. Therefore, we book in advance. Like a day before the lesson, you have to book it. And honestly, this has saved me more time as I can prepare my lessons in advance. I was going to be sending you samples. So even though we only did 4 classrooms, they're now fighting for them. We got to figure out how to do the other ones. But this was pretty cool.
That's good. Uncle Bob Halsey.
That's my weekly update on the aspiring star. They played Peyton and her team at Exeter High School. They played Monday night in the rain. They played a very weak team. Peyton scored 3 goals, and they took her out. The second team kept on going. They won the game 8-1. I wasn't able to go to the game Wednesday night because I had a little tooth problem. But unfortunately, Peyton scored 2 goals, but they lost 5-3. So we got one more game left tomorrow night, and then I guess we'll go to the playoffs. So just keep reading in the paper. She'll be in there somewhere.
Very good.
I'm done with
Paul.
Yes, an evolving story in CNN terms. About close to 3 months ago, I was at a meeting, and Bob Kraus took me to the hospital emergency room, a rapid heartbeat. That turned out to be nothing of consequence, but once they get you, they want to check you inside and outside. So through all this, I got back to a couple extra meetings then, but since then, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, aggressive, advanced, uncurable, but manageable, and I like that word. So I entered into a whole variety of therapies, hormone therapies, a new drug that just came out of clinical trials called Zytiga. And I've been on that for 10 weeks, just had another blood test, and my PSA score dropped from 214, which is very, very high level, to 0.7. Another dollar is included for public service messages. Men over 50 have to get a PSA test every year, even though it is not recommended by our government. This caught me by surprise because I fell into that idea that this wasn't necessary, but it is very, very necessary. So I feel really good. No side effects except heat, and what they call them, hot flashes. So I sympathize with it. So in any event, I'm feeling good, strong, and I'm very optimistic that things will progress very favorably. So $1 to the oncologist.
Are you sure you didn't have a gender change?
I've been exploring that to see if it could reverse the heat flash issue.
Eileen?
Well, I only have $2 left. I spent a week in California for a wedding, and I was at wine country, and I brought back a dozen bottles in a wine suitcase, so the burning in Sonoma was not my fault. But I have some wine if you want to buy it.
Great. Thank you very much. JP?
Okay. I have a couple of sets of happy dollars. I have 2 happy dollars. Catherine's political career is off to a 1-0 start. As a new middle schooler, she was eligible to run to be her class representative for the Student Government Association, and she handily beat a field of 4 other candidates. One of the kids came up after they made speech and said, "Your speech was so good I voted for you instead." I said, that's because she didn't follow her brother's advice. His brother told her, if you really want to win, you got to use like Make St. Anne's Great Again and build a wall against the CCD kids. She says, I'm not going to do that. And then he actually did suggest that. That is actually sitting there. You should really do this. Like, I'm not going to do that. The other, more important, I have 14 happy dollars. Yesterday, October 11th, was my 14th wedding anniversary. So
Congratulations.
I'm very happy she's kept me around.
Michael?
Speaking of playoffs, there's only one thing better than the hated Red Sox being beat in 4 games in their series, and that's the Yankees winning theirs in 5 games. Go Yankees.
Thank you, Mike. Roger?
No, Roger, no.
Go Indians. Go Indians, go home. Tomorrow, my brother and I leave for Europe for 15 days. Rhine River cruise. I can't wait.
Great. Larry?
I have a rebuttal problem.
I've missed those.
What most people don't know, because I haven't given my classification talk now in 20 years, but my mom is a lifelong Yankee fan. So I'm actually somewhat pleased for you. We'll get you next week.
Karen?
Okay, I have $300. Moved my son in to his apartment in Frederick. It went very well, but there was a lot of stairs, so that's the last time we'll ever move my son. My other son, Rowan, he got the official notification from the Navy that he's going to be a pilot, so next year he'll go to his pilot. And the last one, I went to Bethlehem, St. Luke's, met a friend who managed to survive a very bad heart attack, so he's doing well, so that's good. That's it.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
And Stevie?
I too have a rebuttal dollar to Larry. My parents are from Cleveland, and they went to the 1948 series with the Indians, so here's Indians.
All right, well, I'll come around and collect some money and bird it back to you.
Okay, Rick is going to introduce our speakers.
Yes, good morning, everybody. We have three speakers this morning. Two are Rotarians, and one is a special guest of the two Rotarians. And I'll introduce him first. Many of you know Tom Jennings. He was the director of photography at Waddell. He was the principal photographer for some of the national magazines that they do, which is Prevention, Organic Gardening, Runner's World, Men's Health, Bicycling, New Farm, and many books that he's done over the 27 years. I think that he was at Waddell. After his retirement from Waddell in 1998, he looks a lot younger than that. He spent most of his creative efforts with Wildlands Conservancy. Okay, he's a director of special projects, and he was a photographer there until 2012. And then he retired, and now he has his own company called Jennings Photography. So I welcome Tom. He will get up to speak with our next Rotarian guest, and that would be Dr. Mike Waddell. And we'll keep this short, Mike, okay? Because this is like 3 pages long. You're a really great guy, man.
Say I'm here.
You're here, but no, it's some of the things that he does in our community. He is a member of Bethany United Methodist Church, okay? He served as a member of the Emmaus Youth Association, the Park and Recreation Commission, Zoning Hearing Board since 2006. He was elected to Borough Council sometime after I left, and did a wonderful job with the Borough Council. He was executive director of the Emmaus Commemorative Gardens Foundation, which created the Remembrance Garden at Canals Homestead, which we're going to talk about today. Now, I promised Mike that I'd give him as much time as possible, because the last time he talked here was, I think, 3 years ago. We had like 13 minutes. So we want to know what the Remembrance Garden is and tell us a little bit about it. Last but not least is past District Governor Roger Whitcomb. Roger, what's there to say? He's a Democrat. Okay. We love you, buddy. Roger is a veteran. He is a veteran of the Navy. He spent 36 years at Kutztown University. You taught political science, I believe, Roger. Is that
I
correct?
did.
Okay. He's really, really good with foreign policy. I've asked Roger to come and speak to us again on what's going on in Russia today. So we'll hopefully hear from him again, and I'll go through his extensive resume then. But without further ado, if the three gentlemen would like to come up and talk about the Emmaus Remembrance Garden. Who's first?
Good morning.
Morning.
Good to be back again. Rick, in between making egg sandwiches over at the Wheels of Time, asked me to fill the slot on October 12. I said, I never pass up an opportunity to talk about the Remembrance Garden. A little different today, and the reason I wanted to make sure I had enough time is I knew Roger was in town, and Roger was an integral part of the creation of the Remembrance Garden. So I asked him to, how many pages of notes do you have there?
It's 7.
What do you expect from Roger?
Is that okay?
Sure. So Roger's going to tick this off about the Remembrance Garden, so take it away, Roger.
Can you hear me without the microphone?
Yes.
Okay. And looking at you guys, it's amazing what we did together many years ago to make this happen. Great respect for you. It's truly been a labor of love in working with these people. I think the result that you see today epitomizes what a community can accomplish when people get together on behalf of a great idea. In 2000, the Emmaus Borough Council began a project called Emmaus Visioning 2000. I happened to be president of the Borough Council at the time, and it was a major undertaking. We brought together dozens of citizens of the borough to brainstorm about what we could do to improve or enhance the quality of life in the borough. Outside consultants were hired to provide needed ideas and expertise. A number of action groups were set up to brainstorm ideas, translate them into specific projects, and develop strategies to accomplish them. It was my privilege to be a small part of that undertaking. The Emmaus Commemorative Gardens Foundation, and that's what we call our group, began as a task force composed of interested volunteers whose common bond was to aesthetically enhance the environment of Emmaus. Early on, the project team heard from one of its members about a memorial garden in Hawthorne, Nevada, that had over 900 rose bushes dedicated to remembering people in the community who had passed away. The Hawthorne idea was the inspiration for the Emmaus Borough Gardens. The first action planning meeting of the group took place on March the 20th, 2002. Over the next several months, volunteers were recruited, a board of directors created, a nonprofit 501c3 applied for and received, permission for a site at the Canals Homestead granted, and finally a site plan developed. Vital in all of this was a commitment by the Wildlands Conservancy to provide oversight in the design and development of the garden. Another council very important stepping stone was the ability to get the borough of Emmaus to let us rent land for the garden for the princely sum of $1 a year over 25 years. That's the deal that's still in place today. In 2003, a formal business plan was adopted spelling out the foundation's scope, its plan for growth, and a detailed business strategy, including a sales and marketing effort. The initial meeting of the foundation was held in February 2003 in Borough Chambers. The ensuing months were spent largely in promoting the project, dealing with specifics regarding the garden itself, and raising money. The role I played was chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, and I remember the many hours the three of us spent in collecting, cataloging, contacting, meeting community leaders, both outside and inside the borough. The outcome, I don't have to tell you, was very, very encouraging. By the end of 2003, we had raised over $17,000. Contributions from several community leaders, not least of which was our great colleague and friend, Brent Peters, who was then president, CEO of the East Penn Bank. They contributed $1,000 to the effort. But I think the major turning point was when we visited Air Products, the three of us. A guy by the name of Tim Holt, who was their director of community outreach. The bottom line is we got a commitment from Air Products for $15,000, $5,000 in each of 3 years. So that was the turning point. By the end of 2003, we had a formal business plan in place in which we spelled out our strategy for moving forward. In early 2004, we had groundbreaking, and in July of that year, we had the formal dedication of the garden. The result you see before you today at the Canals Homestead. I'm very, very proud of the effort we all made. Dozens and dozens and dozens of volunteers in the community worked very hard to bring it into fruition. With that, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Roger, thank you.
You bet.
That was very nicely done. Actually, I'd forgotten a good bit of that, the dates, and you can tell what Roger's really good at, is quantifying things. And I want to, again, say what Roger did. He was on Borough Council at that time. He helped us get some money from Borough Council. They had some matching monies. And we, in our our goal was, or our commitment was, we would not break ground until we had at least $50,000 in in-kind monies or money in hand, plannings or whatever it was. And we finally reached that place in around 2000, and then Roger coordinated the dedication in July of 2004. Roger mentioned going to get money. These two guys are amazing. They are rainmakers. I was a school principal. I was used to having this little elementary school budget, and we'd sit there and ask for $10,000 at a time. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. I was not used to doing that. And you'll see some pictures of Waddell and Brett Peters and so on. I'm a very visual guy. I'm not a stentorian like Roger, so we'll get into the pictures here and tell you the story that we have. And I'd like to start this with, this is a story, and Roger started the beginning of the story. And I tell you, it's a sad story, but I think an interesting story, and it's sad because the Remembrance Garden does not exist if my parents hadn't divorced. Now you think, that's an odd way to start any kind of a story. But the truth is, my father was a master mechanic. He worked heavy construction most of his life, and he was very good at it. And I got none of that DNA, by the way. I mean, he could take bulldozers apart and cranes, scrapers, whatever. And at some point, he and my mom divorced in the late 70s, early 80s, and he left and moved to Hawthorne, Nevada, which is out in the middle of the desert between Reno and Las Vegas. By the way, he moved with his new wife to Hawthorne, Nevada. Hawthorne, Nevada was an Army munitions dump through the Vietnam War, but it had really dropped in population in the 80s down to a little less than 3,000, which is where it is today. My dad loved living out there. It's in the middle of the desert. Now, this is a guy who grew up in Lemoyne and Harrisburg area, New Cumberland. As we're driving around, he's showing us this hardware store, and here's the downtown, and here's this. And we came around the corner to this library, this Mineral County library, and he said, yeah, we'll kind of go by there. And I thought, this is really interesting. Look at all those flowers out here in the middle of the desert, all these roses. So we stopped by. It's called the, Tom, you want to just hit the button here for me? The space bar right here. So, and I want to show you this picture in particular. Here, as Roger said, there were 900 roses, and if you look at the bottom, at the base of each of these rose bushes, there's a marker for someone who had passed away in Hawthorne, Nevada. This community in the 70s felt that it was important to recognize members of their community who had passed away. So here again, there's name placards at the base of these. And I thought that was fascinating. We had moved to Emmaus in 1985, but I had been in the community since 78, working with the school district. And I thought, that's really interesting. That might work in Emmaus. So I took the pictures, I threw them in an envelope, and I put them where pictures go to die, you know, when you take pictures of film and on film, and you just put them away. So as Roger mentioned with the visioning committee in 2000, we're talking about ways to improve the community, and I have those pictures somewhere. So I went, I dug them out, I threw them onto a table, and lo and behold, there 4, 5, 6 people said, that's really a good idea. So we created the team, as Roger mentioned. We worked for a couple of years. We put the monies together, created the foundation, and just to show how we thought this Emmaus Commemorative Gardens Foundation. We thought eventually this would be more than one garden. That hasn't happened yet, but maybe it will. But it's Gardens Foundation. We created a mission statement, which has changed a little bit over the years. We have a board of directors right now. We have 10 good people on there, including 2 volunteers of the year, Dick Farmer and Terry McManaman. Roger is a participating member, not on the board right now, but we have 10 really good members. And this is the design that Roger talked about. And it still amazes me that we went to Air Products, we went to Waddell. Literally all we had was that picture. And that was it. We had that design on a piece of paper. We'd walk in and say, here's what we want to do. can you give us $10,000? That's how good these guys are. And they said, yeah, sure, we trust you. We think you're going to do this. And they gave us money. What Roger probably doesn't know is Air Products, when they gave us the $15,000, it was supposed to be over 3 separate years. It showed up in one check at my house one day. And I opened it up and, Linda, look, it's $15,000. And so I called Tim at Air Products. He says, just keep it. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I am not used to this. This is not my world at all. So we looked at 7 different sites in the borough. And we chose the one by the Canals Homestead for a couple of reasons. One, that it was reasonably flat. Second, the borough owned it, so truthfully, we knew they would continue to mow it. That is huge in something like this, that somebody's going to mow it and you don't have to get a mower, you don't have to have a shed, you don't have to have volunteers. This series of pictures always amazes me. And to watch that plot of ground, and many of you have been there, to see it as just a plot of grass, and how over a course of a couple of days it turned into the pergola and the walkways and so on. And this was with Mike Wachter of Greenstone Landscaping, who put this up. I had brown hair before this was done. This finished Friday night, and we had the dedication on Saturday. I was pretty unhappy with Mike, and Mike's response was, well, it got done, didn't it? And it had been sort of a rainy week too, so I was a little beside myself till it got done, but it did. So here we have the dedication ceremony. Our good friend Brent, I think Artie Waddell is next. And then we moved on to what I like to think of as how this has worked. It has evolved over the years. And we have this board of directors. We try and be far thinking, and the garden exists through the sale of bricks and good organizations like this that help us out. And as it turned out, we go back to one slide, the Emmaus High School. We really thought that, we knew we would have family bricks. We just knew in talking to people we would have the family bricks. And then the Emmaus High School brick, we're in East Penn School District. There's got to be a bunch of people who will buy bricks for their kids when they graduate. Okay, well, we were right about the family bricks. We were wrong about the Emmaus High School bricks. I think we probably only have 10 bricks in any way related to Emmaus High School over 13 years. Now, my wife, who is not always right, but is seldom wrong, said, Mike, you got to understand, parents are getting ready for their kids to go to college. They're not going to buy a brick. And she was right. So we just put 2 in, one for the classes, I think 62, and the class is 61. So apparently you have to have at least 50 years in before you put a brick in Remembrance for your class. So we have the family bricks, veterans, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Bill Erdman, to his credit, bought the first business walkway brick. I always appreciated that Bill would do that and trusted us that we would do the right thing. A couple of the banks helped us out. And of course, the Emmaus Rotary Club and some other service clubs. With Community Heroes Walkway, which we opened about 3 years ago, which we always put bricks in for firefighters, police officers, EMTs, around September 11th. Eagle Scouts, Audrey Racinas and her husband Bill, Eagle Scout Walkway, Families Walkway. Heritage Alliance is a new one, which is over by the Canals Homestead. We're doing more weddings right now. There's some officiants in Emmaus who'd like to come out to the Remembrance Garden for weddings. And on this Sunday, this weekend, we're going to create the next walkway, which is the Emmaus Churches Walkway. We have bricks for St. Matthew's, Bethel Bible, and the Moravian Church are putting bricks in, and we'll continue to put bricks in. The Remembrance Garden exists because of help from good organizations like this one. We can't, as 10 members, we can't do all that needs to get done. So we really appreciate the help The Emmaus Rotary Club comes in every July. Gary gets people together and trim the roses. Or I have a couple of pictures here of some of the Rotary Club members. We were a lot younger then, I think, when we did this one. I actually have more slides at the end of the most current one. Now notice the size of those bushes, the perimeter bushes. Some of you have been out there. They're about 12 feet high now. There's our fearless leader, Gary, in the front. And that was actually this year, because John Wright's there. He helped us, actually last year, I think, he trimmed the roses. No, this was this year. This year should be the shirts. There's always something to do over there. It's like anybody's big garden. There's always work to be done, whether it's killing weeds or putting sand between bricks. Our directors also do 2 cleanups a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. This is us planting the new yellow roses that we put in a couple years ago. Thanks to Gary, actually, we ripped out the other ones. Here's Roger Whitcomb here, getting his hands dirty, pruning some rose bushes. One of our, we had quite a bit of help from the Emmaus Veterans Committee, and we'll talk more about the veterans, and Tom will talk a little bit more about them. It's interesting. I think veterans are an interesting group. They were a hard sell for a walkway for veterans, and they just didn't quite trust us. They weren't quite sure what we were up to. In fact, I remember one guy, Tom, we're over at Catholic Warbit, says, "So what do you want from us? What are you up to?" We're trying to sell them something, you know. We're here to help you. We want to recognize veterans. So these are typical families, and I like this series of pictures because it's just people who want to remember someone in their life, an event in their life, something special in their lives. So that they'll purchase one of the bricks and sometimes several at one time. This is the Emmaus Lioness Club, and I think I have another picture later of them. The Emmaus Lioness Club puts a brick in for the president every year, and last year they decided to go the whole way back into the 70s. I think they put almost 30 bricks. They bought about 30 bricks and put them all nice and orderly, and every year now they know where the next brick is going to go. Tom, just, okay, keep going. Again, different clubs put the bricks in, families. Okay, stop there. This is when we first created the garden, we didn't have that walkway that goes from the parking lot to the main walkway. And we found that to swale. There's a reason why there's sort of ditches in there, because there's tons of water that come down off the parking lot and South Mountain, and I'm not sure where it all comes from, but it comes right down through there. So we needed to have a walkway through there. As you'll see, a gentleman on a walker was coming through there. Yeah, I took a picture of him just to show that's why we put that there, so anyone could walk through really any time of the year. Tom Petro, if you know Tom, put a brick in for his parents. And I gotta say, okay, just stop a second. One of the things that I say to people when they come to the Remembrance Gardens, there's a story for every brick. Everyone. Everyone has a reason to put them in. Some are very, very happy. Some are congratulatory. Some are very, very sad. And it always chokes me up because some are really sad stories, but they want to remember someone in their life, and then they put these bricks in. Some of them are good with it. When we do the veterans bricks, that's a really good day for that. But some of the stories are very. How many bricks total? Right now we just went over 600 engraved bricks. So we're averaging, I don't know, 30 or 40 a year. We actually these are the heaters. If you know Heaters of Heaters Diner, years ago, before my time actually. The 48+1 club, there were 48 students in one of the classes the women, and they had one member of a different class as a friend, so there was 48 plus 1 club. And another veteran, 1 and 2 high school bricks. This is the one we put in for the walkway, John Thomas. So this is the commercial, okay? Just being upfront about it. If you're looking to do something for an employee, for a customer, partner, do a brick. That's all we ask is think about perhaps putting a brick in for someone to recognize their service to you or service to the community. Okay, Tom, I want Tom to talk about, Tom's our veteran. Tom is a former Marine, along with Roger. And I should mention, well, we'll get to some of the presentations. When we started doing the veterans presentations in 2006, in 2008 we decided we wanted to have someone, a speaker. And Roger was actually our first veteran speaker at that point. So Tom, why don't you talk? I'll hit the button here.
Okay. Well, my interest in this whole project comes from the fact that I'm from a small town in western Pennsylvania, that the only way you're remembered that you came from that town is if you did something outstanding in sports and you go to the gymnasium and up on the side of it, it says who won a 440-yard dash. They don't even have it in meters, it's so old. But that's the only way anybody would know you were ever from that town, is if you had some achievement in athletics and you would go to that gymnasium. And I've lived in Emmaus now for 46 years. And it's a wonderful town, and people do wonderful things for people in the town, outside of the town on a regular basis. And there's no place that there is like the community well, the place where people exchange stories about people like you and the people who came before you and those who come after you. And my feeling about the Remembrance Garden is that's the community well. That's where the stories are saved and can be told for generations to come. People in the churches, the school, the veterans, which I guess we'll go through here now. We started a veterans walk, I don't remember, 10 years?
2006.
Pardon me?
2006.
2006, so 11 years ago. And every year we have 20 plus, sometimes as many as 30 bricks placed in the Veterans Walk, not because they gave their life in service to the country, but because they serve the country, and people who are serving now. It's not a memorial in that it's a cemetery, it's a thank you for being part of the service, or being a great volunteer in the community, or being a good teacher, or being part of a service organization in the community. That's where the stories are, and as Mike said, every brick has a story. It's not about a tombstone and a headstone, it's about what you gave to Emmaus somewhere along in your life. And then he said we're 600 plus now in that storytelling. Many of them are veterans, and every year on the Sunday before Memorial Day we have a wonderful ceremony. We have some speakers, and it's emotional as can be. We have 100 plus, maybe even as many as 200 people and family members come to dedicate and put these bricks in the walk. And it is just an amazing American celebration of what that day used to be way back when it was about World War I think, where it started, Memorial Day, or whatever they called it, Veterans Day, I guess. And, I mean, there's a story behind each of these bricks. There's so much pride and so much family cohesion on that day that it's the signature event that we have. We're trying to always beat it. We're going to be working with churches. We're trying to come up with other walkways in the future that will beat the Veterans Walkway, but I don't think that we will. There's probably 300 Veterans bricks in now.
There's about 300.
About 300. Anyway, it is the place that if you have someone or some event or some organization that you want to have be part of the legacy of Emmaus, this is the place that has been created in order to do that. So that brick is a permanent remembrance, and that's why it's the Remembrance Garden.
All of us have served on committees And we know, I'm late here, I'm sorry. One of the things that we learned, we had one of the longest discussions was what to call the garden. We knew it didn't want to be a memorial garden, so we made it the Remembrance Garden. So let me go through this. We actually moved the ceremony over in the shade. It took us 10 years to realize we should be in the shade, which is only 100 feet away. So we moved it under the pine trees. Here last year we did have about 200 people. So the last part of this is a thank you to the Rotary Club. We really, really appreciate what you've done for us financially and physically. We couldn't do this without you, and we really do appreciate it. Appreciate it. I think it's wonderful that we remember our members who have passed away in some respect. Not all clubs do that, and I'm not sure how it was done before I came here, before the Remembrance Garden, but this is really a nice way to do this. I think it's nice that we bring the families in when we put the bricks in and say nice things about their loved one. I think that's one of the last. So a very special thank you to the Emmaus Rotary Club. That's what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike and Tom and Roger for the presentation. Really appreciate taking us through this and helping us remember, helping the town remember those that deserve our honor and respect. So thank you very much for all of your work and the fun.